You made all this progress this offseason, gaining strength, putting on muscle, gaining speed, and then the season starts and it starts slipping away. You lose weight, you lose strength, you feel flat, you feel slow, and your energy crashes halfway through games. Today, we're talking about how to stop losing weight in season and how to eat in a way that keeps you strong, fast, and performing at your best from day one to the playoffs. I don't care if you are a baseball or football player where size does matter, or if you are a soccer player where you can get away with having a smaller frame. Losing weight in season is almost never a good thing. So, you guys, when you are in season, you are burning a crap ton of calories, even if you are a soccer player. I mean, especially if you are a soccer player. Think soccer. A lot of you get stuck having to play not only your high school season, but then you have to play some other sport, or you have to play your club team. Baseball players, you guys might be doing double headers during the summer. You might play 3 or 4 games all in one weekend. Football players, some of you guys are playing both sides of the ball. Like a lot of you guys, and it's not just the games, it's the practices too. You guys are training a lot more than you typically do. And that means that you are burning a lot more calories. And then you guys are traveling a lot, which often turns into not eating as much because you guys are on the road, you guys are on the plane, you guys don't feel like eating. And so it becomes this major struggle. If you are not eating enough to fuel those workouts, to fuel those games, your performance will suffer. Now, I also know that you guys might not be as hungry. If you guys have really intense games, you guys may not feel like eating right away, right after the games, or after some of those more intense workouts. But I want to stress, and I'll talk about this here in a few, is this is going to be key. We just got to find something that's going to work for you. The other piece is like I said, schedules get crazy. Not only the travel schedule of being on the road or even having to hop on a plane, but it's also just the fact that if you are in a car, if you're having to go from one thing to the next, you're going to be more likely to skip meals. You may not even realize you are skipping those meals. This is the thing, is when we are so busy, sometimes we look back and we say, oh crap, I haven't eaten in 6 hours. I haven't eaten since lunchtime and it's like 6:30 right now. Like that's a problem as an athlete, especially. And so we've got to lock this in. I'm going to talk about here in a few of how to lock that in, how to do it in a way that's easy, that allows you to be consistent. But I also really want to stress is, if you are under fueling, if you're not eating enough, you're going to lose weight and you're going to lose performance. You are going to not be as strong, not as fast, not as energized. And that in turn is going to make your performance suffer regardless of what sport you play. The more weight you lose, the more power, speed, and endurance you lose as well. Even my athletes, I have some baseball players right now who are in season and they recognize that, some of them recognize, hey, I'm not even going to try to lose weight. I'm going to try to maintain, because I know in past seasons I've tried to, or I have unintentionally lost weight in season and my performance suffered. So they chose not to do that. I have others who have chosen, hey, I'm still going to try to lose weight right now, but we had to walk him through a way that he can do it without his performance suffering, which is slow and steady. If you're losing, 5 pounds in a week, 2 pounds, 3 pounds in a week, your performance will suffer. I don't care what sport you play. So you really have to be more intentional about this. Otherwise, again, you're putting your performance at risk, which is the whole reason why you want to mess with your weight is your performance. So if you, ever think about while you're training, maybe it's a leg day, maybe it's an endurance day, maybe it's on a game day. You ever feel like your legs were really heavy, or you just could not finish the way you could at the beginning of the season? Maybe first couple games of the season you felt really good, but by the end of the season you're feeling burnt, you're feeling tired, you just cannot sustain your performance. And this is why. It's because you're not putting enough of the right foods and enough food in general into your body to fuel that performance. You're slowly breaking down your body, you're slowly breaking down muscle, which in turn is going to break down your performance. Now, if you are losing strength, if you're losing muscle, which if you're losing that much weight in season, then yeah, you're probably going to be losing muscle. You're going to lose your explosiveness. all of you, I don't care what sport you are in, you want explosiveness, whether that be jumping ability, speed ability. Maybe it's just like, hey, you got to get from one side of the field to the other, one side of the court to the other. Like, you need speed, you need explosiveness. If you are losing muscle, which if you're losing weight in season, you're probably losing muscle, that's gonna suffer. Also, if you have low energy stores, so again, if you're not eating enough, you're losing weight, chances are you have really low energy stores. You don't have enough glycogen, which again is that energy store, is that gas tank in your muscles. And that is going to reduce how long you can perform, your endurance. I don't care if you're an endurance athlete, like a runner or a soccer player, a basketball player, or if you're football or baseball. If you can't sustain your energy through a game, your performance is going to suffer. You want to be that clutch player. You want to play through the 8th and 9th innings or through the 4th quarter, then you cannot have low glycogen. You can't have an empty gas tank. The other pieces, though, is you're going to be having slower recovery. So if you are getting sore a lot, chances are you are not eating enough of the right stuff. You are not hydrating enough. So when you are training at high intensities and you're not properly recovering, yes, you're going to be sore for multiple days. So this is another sign, if you think about it, this is another sign that you are not eating enough and that you're potentially losing weight, even if you're not tracking it, is, hey, you're getting sore more often and for longer periods. Again, you don't want to be sore if you have back-to-back games. You don't want to be sore if you've got 3 games in one weekend. And that slower recovery, that more soreness, that poor recovery is going to translate to higher injuries, more sickness. If you are getting sick a lot, chances are you're not eating enough and enough of the right foods. If you are getting injured a lot, chances are you are not eating enough and not eating enough of the right foods. So there's actually research out there, mostly in combat sports, where if you've lost, say, 1% of your weight in season as a wrestler, as a D1 wrestler, they showed an 11% increase in injury for every 1% lost. So if you're 100 pounds, for example, and you lose 1%, you lose 1 pound, which again can be really small. But if you're consistently losing that weight, say you lose 5 pounds, you're going to be at like 50% increased risk of injury. Like, you just put yourself at a higher risk for injury the more weight that you lose. You're losing a lot of water weight too. I mean, you want to be hydrated. That's not going to be good if you're losing all this water weight as you're trying to perform. They also did this in fighters, where a 5% loss of body mass, so 5 pounds and 100 pounds, or if you're 200 pounds, then it's 10 pounds. If you lost 10 pounds of your weight, also increased risk for injury. But I want to stress, though, is you can fix this. So baseball players, any of those athletes out there who you guys always struggle during travel season to maintain weight, we can fix this. So let's talk about how you can maintain weight, how you can maintain muscle while you are in season. And here's the deal. You don't need to be tracking your calories. Y'all barely have time to freaking breathe. I don't expect you guys to track all your stuff into an app. We just got to build structure and we got to build consistency. So just some key habits to focus on. Number 1, never go more than 4 hours without eating. You have to be super intentional about your eating. If you are fasting in the middle of a season, and I understand there's religious context for some of that, but if you're fasting, it's going to be very difficult to get you what you need in season. So when I hear of athletes intermittent fasting and stuff, it's going to be very difficult to sustain that, especially as a student athlete when you are trying to perform in many different ways throughout the day. So a lot of my athletes, I actually recommend they eat every 2 to 3 hours in season because, again, you are training and performing and playing a lot more than you typically are. And it doesn't mean that you're eating this big freaking meal every 2 hours. It just means you're eating, even if it's a snack, every 2 to 3 hours. We're not just eating an applesauce. We're not just drinking protein shake. We're eating something where there's protein and there's carbs, where there's protein and some fat, or a little bit of everything, protein, carbs, fats, and some color. You get a little bit of everything in there. But you've got to be more intentional about this. And again, it doesn't have to be crazy. A yogurt parfait hits protein, carbs, fats, and color. Just get your Greek yogurt for more protein. You also, number two, really, and this goes along with the eating every 3-ish hours, is eating pre and post workout. You have to be doing this. Get those quick carbs pre workout. That's where you can have your applesauces, your quick oranges, like your just straight carbs, is in that like 30 to 60 minutes pre workout. Post workout, you know, it could be just a drink. It could be just a Dairy Gold Fit chocolate milk or a Fairlife chocolate milk where you're getting the protein and the carbs. It could be a protein shake like a Core Power or an Orgain shake with fruit or with a Cliff Bar. It could be yogurt with some fruit and some granola. Again, like whatever you feel like. It could be sandwiches. It could be a full meal. But you really got to be eating within that first hour post workout. So if your dinner, say you're done with your workout at 5:30 and your dinner's not till 7, let's get something in right after that practice. Again, usually the liquid calories can be a really easy way to do that. Have that in there, have it post, and then by the time you get to that dinner, you're going to be ready to eat that meal. Now, maybe you guys are already doing these things. You guys are already eating pre and post workout. You're already eating, 5-6 times a day. Add a little bit more. If you're still struggling with maintaining, this is where I talk about with my athletes. I don't want you to do all these things at once. So if you're doing none of these, don't do them all at once. Pick a couple. I just was on my meal planning call with my clients this week. So I have group clients, I have a team that I'm working with, and we went over meal planning for the month for April. When we did that, we broke down strategies to basically add to that, because some of the athletes were still struggling to maintain weight, and some of them are still actually trying to gain weight in season, which is very difficult as well. But you can kind of, depends on how we do it. And so in those cases, we got to get a little strategic. We got to be like, hey, we're going to add a little olive oil to our eggs, add a little extra oil with the breakfast. Maybe add a little oil to rice, maybe a little avocado, maybe just adding a little bit bigger portion of rice or a little bit bigger portion of some of those foods. It doesn't mean just adding more protein. If you're already eating 1 gram per pound of body weight of protein, you really don't need to be throwing more protein at it. And I actually don't recommend that while you're in season, because it can be very difficult to get enough carbs in, to get enough energy in if you're overdoing the protein. So make sure that you're adding more carbs and fats if you're continuing to lose weight. Those are the things that are going to help you fuel your workouts so that your protein can do its job of building muscle versus breaking down that protein for energy. Now, keep easy to eat, high calorie foods ready. So liquid calories can be a very, very beneficial way to help you keep up your intake throughout the day. So that could be that post-workout chocolate milk. That could be a post-workout or breakfast or a snack smoothie, protein smoothie. Not just fruit and not just protein. Get the fruits, get the protein, get some greens in there, get maybe some yogurt, whatever it might be. Like, make that a full deal, and that can help you pack on an extra 300, 500 calories for the day. And typically they taste pretty good. Maybe it's nut butters. So I was talking to my athletes, again, when you think about effort, nut butter, peanut butter is going to be a lot easier to eat than eating a bunch of nuts all the time. So if you are just like, hey, I need to pack on a little bit, like add a little peanut butter to your bread, add a little peanut butter to the smoothies, little things you can do to add a little extra calories throughout the day. And then also, again, with those high calorie foods is having snacks ready. When we talk about eating every 2 to 3 hours, easy things you can do is like trail mix, maybe an RX bar or a True Bar where you're getting some protein, you're getting some carbs, like you get a little bit of everything there. And it's going to be a lot easier for you to keep up. And so, again, you don't have to eat these massive meals. Some of you guys, especially you endurance athletes, you guys don't like eating really big meals. That's fine. That's where we use these little strategies to add a little extra calories here, a little bit there, and ultimately it's going to add up. The goal isn't to eat perfectly, though. It's about just eating consistently, so you don't sacrifice your performance, and so that by the end of the season, you're feeling just as good as you were at the beginning of the season. So make sure that you're intentional about those things. It's going to make a big difference for you, and you're going to be able to perform in the playoffs like you did week 1. Now, when should you worry about weight loss? And some weight fluctuation is normal. Some of my athletes freak out because they weighed themselves at like 6 p.m. last night, and then they weighed themselves at like 6 a.m. this morning. And then they see like a couple pound weight change, or, the next day they see some fluctuation. Some is normal. So even a 1 pound fluctuation for a 100-pound athlete can be normal. It's not always bad. And this is because our fluid weight changes. So think about how much water you drink. Maybe one day you drank a lot of water, one day you didn't. Maybe one day you worked out a ton, you sweated a ton, you lost a lot of weight through hydration, through fluids, and then you didn't replace that. It may not be that you're losing muscle. However, you should be making sure you're hydrating. A 2% decrease in hydration can increase, or it can decrease your performance. Like even just a little bit of dehydration. So, some of it's normal, but you also got to make sure why is it fluctuating? Is it just because I ate a really heavy meal? Or is it because I'm dehydrated? Or is it because I'm consistently not eating enough? This is where I recommend weighing one time a day in the mornings before you eat anything. Have a consistent time. So, if one day you eat oatmeal and one day you eat eggs, you're going to weigh differently post breakfast depending on what you had. So that's why I recommend same days of the week. So maybe it's every Monday and it's before you eat. It could even be in a position of like, hey, maybe you're doing Mondays and Fridays, because then you can look at, hey, is it my week that I'm really struggling with? Is it where all my games are at that I'm struggling with the weight piece? And how is that impacting my performance? Look at not just your weight loss, but look at your performance. If you're feeling slower, if you're feeling weaker, if you feel like you're sore more often, these are the things you should be watching. Not just what number there is on a scale, because that could mean nothing. That little fluctuation, could mean nothing. You've got to pay attention to actually how you feel. Do you feel weaker? So one of my athletes, Drew, he was weighing kind of closer to 170 for a while. Like he started getting a little bit lower than what he normally was at, which was like 175, 180. And he could tell not just the weight was changing, but he noticed that he was sore more often, struggling more through his leg workouts. He was not feeling as good for muscle recovery, for his performance. Like he was paying attention to those things. And so he's aware that, yes, I lost weight, but also that I was not feeling as good when I lost that weight. So now, through strategy, through sneaking a little snacks here and there, adding a little bit more calories here and there, he's back to that 175, kind of sitting there, and he feels so much better. He's performing the way he should. He is lifting the way he should. He is recovering the way he should. So these are the things we've got to pay attention to, not just what number is on a scale, but is it actually translating to strength, speed, energy, and performance? Now, something else to look out for. If you're skipping meals, you don't have much of an appetite, or you're struggling with energy, that's another sign. Hey, yeah, you might not be eating enough. And this might be a sign that you are losing weight and losing performance. So pay attention to those things as well. If this is happening, it's not just about getting calories back in. It's about reestablishing that structure, reestablishing those routines and those habits. Habits are everything. If you cannot maintain consistent habits, if you can't consistently eat breakfast, that's what we got to address. We've got to find a way to allow you to have that structure. It may not mean cooking a full breakfast every morning. It might be making something ahead of time on Sunday nights for the whole week. It might be making something the night before for the next morning. A lot of athletes like their overnight oats and things like that. That can be a strategy. This is why I do group coaching, and this is specifically why I do meal planning calls every month with my athletes, because then they can assess for themselves, shoot, I have not been eating lunch. Shoot, my breakfast has been struggling. But not just recognizing that they did it, because sometimes we do and then we don't do anything about it. Our calls actually allow them to do something about it. We make sure, okay, like I'm not snacking as much as I should. So here's some snack ideas. Shoot, I'm not adding in enough carbs pre-workout. Here's some other ideas for carbs pre-workout. Like it's reminding them of what they should be doing. and then giving them the tools to make sure that they're doing it. So, just as an overview, here's the game plan you want to maintain your weight and continue performing at your best, even if you're in the playoffs. So, at a minimum, eat every 3 to 4 hours, especially for some of you, it might be 2 to 3 hours. Never skip post workout. Make sure that you are eating pre workout. Make sure you're eating post workout. Pre workout is not 4 hours before. Yes, that's part of it. It's also 2 hours before, 1 hour before, getting little somethings in there as well. And post workout is not 2 hours later. It is within that first hour post workout that you are getting something in. It's not this big freaking meal. Could be again the liquids. Could be that protein chocolate milk. It's little things you can do there. But again, track how you feel, not just what you eat or how much you weigh. Weight is a guide. It is not perfect. A calorie counting app is a guide. It is not perfect. Focus on how you feel. Are you energized? Are you stronger? Are you faster? Are you performing the way you should? Are you sore all the time? Look at these things and focus on that. But if you do start noticing you're losing a lot of weight and your performance is suffering, then let's start adding stuff back in. Whether it's a meal that you're missing or whether it's a way to just simply add those little snacks, add those little things to your meals to make sure that you're getting enough in the day. It again doesn't have to be adding a Chipotle bowl to your day. It could be as simple as, hey, I'm going to add a little olive oil here, a little fruit there, a little granola to my yogurt, simple things you can do to make sure you're getting what you need in the day. So do that. And you're going to stay strong, fast, and injury-free and ready to compete, whether it be game 1 or playoffs. So finish the season at your best, not burnt out. Eat like you want to be elite. I love that phrase. And as always, keep striving for greatness.